Yes, it started recording. I see the mark
Yeah.
on the right corner.
So we're being directed to YouTube. Okay, there we are. Great. So I go back to Zoom. Great. Okay, so hi everybody. Jenny here.
Taras here. Hello.
And welcome. Yeah, this is our second Jenny and Taras chat. And we want to talk about Feng Shui and all sorts of good stuff. So how are you today?
I'm okay. And today in early morning, I just thought about very good words of Dr. Sue.
Yeah.
They sound very actual, especially during this virus issue all over the world. His words, just three words. Health is universal religion. Four words. Health is universal religion.
Health is the universal religion. I like that. I like that. Yeah. And how he sees health. And especially today, that's kind of like the most important thing for us today, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like everybody talks about virus.
Yeah, it's like everything else is stripped away, you know? And it's kind of like we have to rethink our attitude toward life.
Right.
You know? All of a sudden, everything's changed. Yeah. Yeah. So how are you over there in the Ukraine? In Ukraine.
In Ukraine, there are some additional health issues because of fires.
Oh, you have fires.
Yeah, we had around 144 fires of forests, of grass in Kiev and Kiev region.
Just natural fires?
Yeah, nobody knows exactly. It's like, I suppose it's because of very dry weather. And some people, the dry grass can just start firing due to some cigarette, the piece of cigarette.
Oh, because it's so dry.
Yeah, yes, very dry. And especially there is a fire continuing in Chernobyl region, where it's radiation forest.
Oh.
And our district, we are located on the northern west part of Kiev, my family. So it's closer to Chernobyl region.
Oh.
Yeah, and if the wind comes from there, it will be rather dangerous for people.
I see. I see. So you have a lot of things you're dealing with. You're dealing with a lot of different things.
Yeah, and because of most people stay home, it's very difficult to breathe because smoke enters windows, doors, everything, everywhere, and the smoke is everywhere. So, it looks like some apocalyptic picture because people are stuck at home, but it's difficult even to breathe.
To breathe, right.
Breathe.
Oh
Breathe.
gosh, I feel for you. I really feel for you. In Hawaii, we have the same what they call, the volcano ash. Volcano?
Yeah.
The mountain, the volcano ash. Yeah, so it creates a kind of a fog. So they call that VOG, VOG.
Yeah,
and
I
it
see.
affects people and their breathing, and looks like it looks cloudy a little bit. The sky becomes a little bit gray, and when the winds come in, kind of similar then, kind of similar. like ash, you know?
Right, right, yeah. But
Yeah.
here we don't see ash, but it's like invisible smoke. Sometimes it's before yesterday it was smoky sky because we had several close to our building fires.
Wow. Oh, you're
Just in
frozen.
old gardens. I will show you the view from my window, and you will
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
the construction works continue. And there are some old gardens over there, and the black soil over there is the black dry grass. The fire was before yesterday.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah, I can see. I can see.
Yeah, and the smoke was over there, over here, and the wind was toward our building. So,
I see.
yeah.
Gosh, so many things
So,
you gotta worry about.
so the health issue is very actual now, and to have a good adaptation, yeah, to
Mhm,
rescue,
mhm.
to revive in such conditions, we need to be healthy.
So are
And
you doing anything in particular to do, keep up your immune system?
yes, we have some vitamins, some microelements, and
Mhm.
first of all, we continue doing tapping and doing some exercises Dr. Sue teached us.
Right, right.
And it's very important in these conditions. If you do tapping,
Yeah,
you work with a blood system, we work with lymphatic system, and lymphatic nodes that are located in these special points we tap. It's very
right,
important for immune
right.
system.
Yeah. So let's tell everybody what tapping really is. It's just literally we tap like this.
Right,
This is how we tap, and we do this 100 times. And then we
right.
also do like the back of the neck, and we also do the shoulders, and you can do this like sitting down. It doesn't matter, you know, especially if, for older folks. If you can't do it standing up, it's fine. You do sitting down, and you can do your upper body, and then you can do your lower body. But that's what Taras means by tapping. So a lot of people don't know about tapping, you know. It's
Yeah.
not very common in America. People don't know about it.
And by the way, we have a video uh, of Dr. Sue doing tapping in Crimea during some workshop. So if people want to watch details,
Yeah.
you or me can send them this link, free video, just to see how to tap. And we have also the video of health workshop by Dr. Sue in Kiev.
Terrific.
It's not expensive, so it lasts around 5 or 6 hours. Dr. Sue gives tapping and other very useful exercises from
Mhm.
qigong system, from meditation, and from traditional Chinese health system.
Oh, very good. So if they want to, watch, or is that something they can purchase?
The tapping is free of charge.
Hmm.
It's on our YouTube, on our site, and we can send this special link after this conference.
Oh,
And
that'd be
also, people can purchase a full-time workshop. There were 2 or 3 days in Kiev.
hmm
Dr. Sue teach. It's around 6 or 9 hours. Dr.
hmm
Sue teach in details the exercises.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, that would be good, especially now everybody's at home. They have more time. Uh, I took actually a Zoom class this morning,
Great.
learning.
What did you teach?
I didn't teach. I was learning. A Tai Chi routine, beginner's Tai Chi. Yeah, it was very interesting. But it was in
Yeah,
all Chinese. I couldn't understand a word. That was the only problem. But I can copy the body movement, you
yeah,
know. Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. And it's just more controlled movement. But I think for people, it's hard when you do Tai Chi because you have to memorize each step, you know. It's a fixed routine as opposed to Qigong. It's just single exercise, much easier, you know, when you
Yeah,
don't have to remember everything. Yeah.
yeah.
So I had a few questions for you, actually, Taras.
Really?
What
What kind
did
of
I write?
question?
Okay. So, how did you come about um, coming in contact with Blue Mountain Feng Shui? Did you know any kind of different Feng Shui before meeting Dr. Zhu?
Actually, I used to be a scientist, a molecular immunologist at the Paladin Institute of Biochemistry,
Oh,
and I have some part-time job as a translator uh,
okay.
from from English to Ukrainian or to Russian. And my friends from Qigong, I started practicing Qigong in 1995, and in 2001, one of my good friends asked me, "Would you please translate the workshop of Chinese master Dr. Sun? He will arrive to Kiev soon." I answered, "Okay, I will translate." And it was the first meeting with Dr. Su in Kiev, 2001.
I see.
And I was a scientist, and I was rather skeptical about some methods that cannot be proved. If there is some system or if there is some knowledge, I know that I should test it, I should check it, I should experiment, and only then to believe or to trust it. So it was
Right.
not my first uh, love with the system, with Feng Shui, or my first belief or trust in it. I was rather skeptical and just translated. Then,
I
step by step, I tried to apply some principles at home, at my work, at the apartments of my friends, and gradually, step by step, I started practicing Feng Shui. So
I see. So you kind of fell into feng shui by just chance.
yeah, yeah, we can call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's not like you went searching for it, you know, it kind of fell into your lap.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. What about you? How did you come to Feng Shui?
Myself, well, I went to interior design school and I was practicing a little bit of interior design part time because I had 3 children and they were still, you know, not that old,
Hmm.
kind of elementary school age in middle school. And what happened was I was doing Japanese ikebana, you know, is the flower arrangement. I learned that. I still learn that till this day. And every month they had a guest speaker. And that one month, the guest speaker was this Chinese, the Taiwanese, I should say, feng shui master. So I thought, you know, okay, you know, I'll see what he has to say. I've read, I tried to read, and I had purchased feng shui books before, but not all of them made a lot of sense. So, like you, I was extremely skeptical,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Very
then
interesting.
when I met him, he was so different from everybody else, you know. And then when I found out he was a scientist, I said, oh, he's a
Mhm.
scientist. You
Yeah.
know, that's unusual because you
Yeah.
never hear that. You know, most people would say a scientist would be somebody who wouldn't do that because you would question, you need a hypothesis, you need to, you know, see if it really works. And if it doesn't make sense. And so that's what a scientist does, right? So
Yeah.
then combine that with feng shui. At first I thought, I don't know, you know, it was very, very different for me. Yeah. And then that's how I started.
Yeah.
And then after his lecture, I was just so impressed with what he said. So I said, "Oh, do you teach?" And he said, "Yep, he taught in Seattle." So I thought, okay, I'll try to take a lesson. And I remember my first lesson very, very well because I thought, you know, I'm an interior designer. I thought, okay, he's going to tell me where to put my sofa. You know, that's what I wanted to know. And then go in, and then he starts talking about heaven, man, earth.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what? What? I don't get it. What does this have to do with feng shui? And that was the beginning. But it was very intense for me, you know, because it was so new that I had difficulty understanding a lot. So it took me a very long time to understand everything,
Yeah.
you
Very
know.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So his approach was completely different, you know. And the interesting part was I went in there and there were these two other men, you know, sitting on the sofa, and I didn't know who they were. Um, and one guy was I think like a brain surgeon, you know, he's a
Mm-hmm.
doctor. And the other guy worked for the city, you know, he was like a government employee. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, why are they here? You know, I'm an interior designer. I know why I'm here. Why are they here? You know, it didn't make sense to me, you
Yeah.
know, and they were interested in energy. Yeah, so you get a very different slice of the population, not just people who want to make their house pretty. It's a very different dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's
Very
why it's
interesting.
quite interesting. Yeah, so that was my question for you. Wait, I gotta wear my glasses. I can't see. Okay, so I mean, you know, I'm sure, like we both said, you know, over time our impression of feng shui changed.
Yeah.
But what was your turning point? What was when was the point when you said, "Oh yeah, that's right," or you know?
Uh, it wasn't, I don't remember exactly. I suppose it wasn't one point. It was the collection, several cases that became this point. First, it was the fact that he is a scientist. Dr. Sue was a scientist, and oh, I'm also the scientist. So we have some common in language, because we know that the scientific language, it differs from other languages, because we operate with some facts and we operate with some principles. If you apply this principle, you will get the same result in any country, in any continent. And
Right.
it's the universal knowledge, scientific, like physics, chemistry, biology. So the same about feng shui. Uh, if it's true science, you will get the same result in any country. And I observed it at my house, at my home, and I observed the results, good results, that showed up uh, in several days. It's rather quick. You do something, you change something in the office, and you see result. You don't wait for some future, for some bright future in the next life. You see the result like in several days, in 1 week or 2 weeks, and it was rather impressive. and
Mhm.
it was very good argument to continue myself to do
I see.
this.
I see.
And
Yeah.
it was very interesting when some people asked Dr. Su about Feng Shui, traditional Feng Shui. Why should we Ukrainians in Ukraine practice Chinese traditional science? Why? People are different. There was the question. People are different, and Ukrainian people, not Chinese people. The
Mm-hmm.
habits, other stuff is different. Ethics, some other things, cultural are different. So why should
Right.
we practice Feng Shui? And before that workshop, we used to travel to some museum
Mm-hmm.
uh, outside Kiev. It's Pirogovo. Pirogovo Architectural Museum, where different uh, houses, many houses, private houses collected from all over Ukraine, from different regions. And when Dr. Su saw these buildings, traditional Ukrainian architecture, he said, if you want to study Feng Shui, if you want to know Feng Shui, please learn from your ancestors, from people who used to build these buildings. So it was also very good answer, and it was the window, the open door for people to start practicing Chinese Feng Shui in Ukraine.
Oh, that's really interesting, and I think it's really true that Blue Mountain Feng Shui is universal.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in a certain place, in a certain country, and have certain customs. How we live, in I grew up in different countries, but I can apply it in a warm tropical place like Hawaii and in a big city in Tokyo. That's where I grew up. Still
yeah,
works.
yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. But that's what's so fun about it, I think. And I think because we see it from a holistic, I guess, holistic. And I remember for me, it was Dr. Zhu always says, nature has all the answers. Don't think about it. Nature has all the answers. And I'd go, yeah, 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 yeah. you know, okay. And I never really understood, but one day it just hit me and I said, he's right. Nature has all the answers. And everything I started to look at was like, oh, as long as I pick what nature would do, I'm picking the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
It was very strange. Everything I had questions about, and even in design, the materials, anything that was more natural was better. It looked better, it felt better. There's a lot of things that, was more natural. It just kind of came together. It was very
Yeah.
interesting, you know, how
Was it your turning point? Turning point?
I think so. I think when I did, at first it was more like an academic topic
Mm-hmm.
instead of integrating it into my life.
Yeah.
But when I started to slowly integrate it, because Dr. Zeus teaches us more of a holistic, it's not just your home, but like you say, your mind, body, and home, everything interconnected,
Yeah.
when you start to do that, I think then you can see the whole big picture. I don't think one can really work without the other.
Yeah.
I think you got to work on them all at the same time because otherwise it's kind of not balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think my problem, I think, was, my body, I wasn't paying too much attention to my health.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of imbalance, but now I'm paying much more attention to my health because I want to keep my immune system up, especially because of the virus. So I find that when you keep your body healthy, your mind becomes sharper, you have more energy, you know. So you need that kind of total balance.
Yeah. But would you please share what are you doing exactly? What exercises or what kind of food or some other? How do you support and improve your immune system?
I exercise every day. I do different types of exercise. Sometimes I do, more uh, like using like a stretch bar because I'm sitting down in the chair a lot. This part becomes hunched because I'm like
Yeah.
this. So this becomes really important. So things like stretching out here. I also have a bar I hang,
Mm-hmm.
and it opens up my shoulders. So I
Right.
think this opening up the shoulders really, and I also look up quite a lot. I'm looking down too much, but
Mm-hmm.
if we talk about yin yang balance, I look up. And then it's quite tiring because I don't normally look up.
Yeah.
So I practice that. The other thing is because I look at the monitor, which is quite close, my
Mm-hmm.
eyes get tired. So I try to make it a habit to look out the window and try to look far away again to balance it out.
Yeah.
That's for my eyes. And I try to massage and self massage. And I also go walking. We're allowed
Mm.
to go walking. I kind of live in the country, so there's not very many people. So I'm allowed to go walking or running. So I do, just to get out. But
Are you walking with a mask on your face?
not no, I haven't been, but now they're saying they might change it.
Uh-huh.
uh Dr. Zhu told me that they changed it in Taiwan now. If you don't wear a mask, they fine you $100.
Mm-hmm. The same in Ukraine.
Oh, you're fine now?
Yeah.
Oh, they're talking about it here, but it's not yet being implemented. But they're saying, just for your own safety, just wear a mask. But if I'm going around the neighborhood, I don't see anybody. If I go to
Mm-hmm.
the supermarket, I have to go to the post. I wear gloves, you
Yeah.
know, things like that.
Yeah. Right.
So I haven't gone shopping. Actually, my husband has gone shopping, but he said they changed everything. Where you buy your groceries, they put a panel between the
Mm-hmm.
cashier and the people, and
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
put at the post office. They put little X's on the floor that are
Uh-huh.
6 feet apart, and so you must stand on an X.
Yeah. The same we have at the post offices. This yellow line. They put yellow lines.
Oh, I see. So those are just the little things, but they are implementing that. So now
Mm-hmm.
they're saying in America, there's no school in where I live for the students. Usually they have school till the end of June,
Mm-hmm.
but they already canceled that. No more.
Yeah. And the same in Ukraine. No schools are closed.
Hmm.
Universities are closed. So my sister, she says overloaded with students because she need to give everybody the lessons, the tasks, and then to check everything. And if she
Oh,
corrects, then she start to communicate through Viber or WhatsApp or other
oh, oh! You're getting frozen.
application. Then again, hundreds of lessons of students, and she's crazy. No.
Oh my goodness! So the teachers are having a really hard time.
Much difficult than it was at school.
Oh. Yeah, my sister too. She's not a teacher. She's tutoring, you know, children.
Yeah.
And in Hawaii, those Japanese children whose English isn't very good. So
Hmm.
she said she's helping them, but she said the teachers too, in the beginning, they gave them a workload, and she said, oh, it was so much. It's like too much. Then I think the next week they said, oh, sorry. Now we know that that was too much. You know, they don't, it's all trial and error, you know, because this is all new to everybody. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's the adaptation you got to go through. Did you see my post about the panda?
Yes.
Yes, I got to tell everybody about this. It was in the I think I saw it in one of the news channels, and there are two pandas in the Hong Kong Zoo that they were trying to mate, and it seems like they were trying to mate. They forced them to mate because they wanted a baby, and they were also doing artificial insemination. They were just trying to force them for 10 years. That's a long time, but no baby. So they had to close down the zoo, and then they kind of naturally mated. So I thought, that is hilarious. So I thought, oh, animals know feng shui too, you know, it affects them. Right? Yeah, if you have people, you know, watching you every day pass, that must be really, it's stress. It's a form of stress, I think. But now there's no people, their stress level has gone down, you know, and their animal instincts can kick in. You know, I just was like so amazed, you know.
I saw the picture, some joke picture, when the zoo in 2019, when people come to the zoo and observe the animals, and the second picture is 2020. Animals come to observe people who are closed at home.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. I saw some news about the animals coming to the cities because there's no people, that kind of going back to their territory because the people took the territory. Now they're coming back. That's kind of strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
I find that very fascinating, you know. Yeah. I find that I guess it's kind of like nature's coming back. The air is getting clean. I don't know. Well, now you have your fires, but in Hawaii, I talked to my mom, and she said the beaches, nobody's on the beach because they're not allowing tourists in. And she said that the tourists came to Hawaii, and it's a 2-week quarantine. So they sent them back. They sent them back to wherever they came from. And I said, oh
Great.
my God, they sent them back. And my mom said, yeah, because the governor said, you know, we can't allow people to come now. So she said the people are not allowed to go on the beach. And she said, they said the beaches are so clean, the water's getting clear, you know, and it's very good. It's very good for the environment, actually.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think? What is the most precious thing for people in all times, especially now? What is the number one? The most precious in our life, or in the life of every person?
I think it's our relationships with family.
What about alone? What about alone people? Many people now live alone. There are no family, no relatives. Everybody died or moved to other countries. So many people are alone. What is the most precious thing for alone people?
It would probably be their health.
So again, you know, the health, universal religion.
And not only physical health, mental.
Yeah,
right. Know? And emotional. Right?
Right.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that live alone now. It's a really big problem in Japan, actually. Um, their their population, the older generation, they live a long time, and their way of life is different. Like in America, you have a bigger kitchen, you have a bigger refrigerator, everything is big,
Yeah.
so we can shop for a much longer period, which means we can buy groceries for maybe 1 week. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But in
Mm-hmm.
Japan, everything is smaller. So the normal Japanese people, they go shopping every day. That's just part of the culture. We shop every day. You buy whatever you're going to eat that day. It's not very efficient, but that's just the way it is. But a lot of times your shops are, when I lived in Japan, I could go out my door and next door is a vegetable shop. You don't go far. It's very close, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if I walk maybe 10 minutes, I can walk and I can go to all the shops. It's not a big deal. So that's part of their health maintenance too.
Yeah.
They walk, they go shop, and they walk back, So for them to not being able to go out and do shopping every day, it affects their health too, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and so it's going to affect them in a very, different way compared to here, because their everyday routine is disrupted. And there's a lot of older people where their children, move on, and they move to the next town or wherever their work is. And a lot of the older people are very lonely, very lonely. So like
Yeah.
my flower arrangement teacher who lives here, because she married an American, and
Mm-hmm.
she said she felt a lot of guilt because her mother was in the countryside in Japan and her father had passed on, and her sister was in Tokyo, so lives far away from the mother. But then the mother got sick, but she cannot go from America just to, and her sister had her own family. So she said it was very sad, and then her mother passed away, and then they had their own lives. They never really went to clean up the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, one of the neighbors contacted them and said the house is falling apart. They had a heavy storm, and the wind blew, and it knocked something came off the house and hit the next house and damaged it. So she said, oh, maybe we have to go and do something. So she and her sister had to arrange it, and they had to go, and they had to, finally deal with the house and clean it up. And she said, many young people left the village. There's no young people. Nobody wants to buy the house. They cannot even sell the house. She
Yeah.
said, it's
Yeah.
just falling apart. And she said, it's so different from how, when we grew up. It's just completely different. They don't want to
Yeah.
come back. They don't want to live in the country. So all the old people are by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I suppose it's the global process, because in Ukraine the same situation. People leave, young people leave the countryside, they go to big cities, and old people remain, or people who are not motivated, just people drunk, many people just drunk in villages, who don't work, they just drunk,
Is that because there's no
drink
work? Why is
just drink
that?
alcohol,
Why?
because of they are not motivated, they lost the aim of life, they don't see the purpose of life.
Why did they become that way?
I suppose it's perhaps one of the result of Soviet Union, former USSR conscience. People know used to know that there is always a job. Everybody had a job. Everybody had a salary. You didn't need to be initiative, to have some purposes to reach this aim, to this purpose. You just lived every day, just working and going home. You get salary and don't think about the future. But after the Soviet Union collapsed, there were two choices: just to become a private farmer, entrepreneur in the village, or you just do nothing. And when you do nothing, you start drinking a lot.
Oh, I see. So they, everything was just taken away. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah, because
Right.
we used to have kolkhoz, or collective farms. Collective farms is like, in the beginning they were organized by force. They in the beginning of 20th century, these collective farms, they were created by force with soldiers and with some repressive measures.
Mhm.
But after this system collapsed, they also collapsed. Collective farmers just collapsed on small parts or just disappeared, just were ruined, and animals were sold out. That's it. And all the system, when we travel in Ukraine, we often see these half ruined old farms, old houses without people, because many people left their houses and moved to cities.
I see. Kind of like the same as in Japanese countryside, then people leave the towns and go to the city. So the cities become abandoned, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we observe the situation that the most active virus is in the cities, most populated cities, because it's very easy to get flu, get virus.
Right, right. But I guess from a feng shui perspective, the less people, and then the people start dispersing in the village, less energy, the chi becomes weak. So it gets less and less and less. So I guess that's how we see it from a feng shui perspective, you know. They have no support system. The support system just falls apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the energy, there's no energy left. Hmm. Yeah. I don't know how we can reverse that. I was talking, speaking of farming, you know, I was talking to my son, like in England, uh, everybody used to have their own little vegetable farm at their house. That was normal. But then when you had the rich people, the aristocrats, they started to have a flower garden, you know, and
Mhm.
because they didn't need the vegetables because they had, you know, the people working for them to make the vegetable. So having kind of like, you know, the Chinese red door syndrome, to have a flower garden was a sign of status, that you had a lot of money and you didn't have to grow vegetables. But
Yeah.
I think now we're going to go backwards and everybody's going to start growing their vegetables, you know?
Yeah, could be a
Yeah,
reason.
yeah. I mean, here in America, people are now trying to grow tomatoes, and when I walk around, they have sections of their yard now for vegetables. That was unheard of before. Unheard of.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going back because we're scared of what's in the supermarket. too much pesticides or something, so we don't have that. We lost trust in our food. So the only way that we can kind of trust is to grow our own food now. It's,
Yeah.
as Dr. Zoo says, it's all cyclical.
Yeah, and we go to the point from which we started. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're all going to be farmers again. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think is the most important thing? Do you think it's health?
I think the most important is our conscious health, informational level of
Mental health.
health. Yeah, yeah. As Dr. Sue teaches us, and as I understand from observing life and people, everything starts from here and ends here.
Mm. Mm.
And I mean conscious, not only the thing that is in our head or our heart. I think conscious is that lives outside our body when we die, because our bodies, it's like codes we change
Mm.
from life to life, but our conscious continue traveling, and is the most important.
That's very interesting. I was listening to a podcast. I enjoy a podcast, this American guy called Tom Bilyeu, and he had a guest on there who was a psychologist, and he wrote a famous book. I can't exactly remember his name. I will later look for it. But what was so fascinating was he had a sibling, his sister had a son, so his nephew, and he was maybe about 10 or 11 years old, and he was a very good kid, but all of a sudden he turned into this horrible child, just throwing tantrums, and like something was wrong with him. So the
Mm-hmm.
sister went to the brother and says, "You got to help me. I don't know. He's just become so difficult. I can't handle him, and I don't know what to do." So he said, "Okay, I'll do what I can do." And he talked to this child and talked to this child, and then he said, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe he needs a brain scan." So they scanned his brain, and what they found was he had a tumor that was pushing on his brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had surgery to remove it, and the child became normal.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought, oh my goodness, maybe sometimes it's physical,
Yeah.
something wrong with the brain, the function. And so after that, he said for his practice, he would ask his patients to have their brain scanned. And he started doing that kind of research. And he says, when the brain shape is not healthy, it can affect your mindset, your brain health. So
Yeah.
it's kind of all interconnected, you know.
Yeah.
But we don't know that. We just think, oh, they're mental, and it's kind of everything's compartmentalized.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's not true. They're finding out that's not true. And he said, which was very interesting for me, was he said he had a lot of anxiety, and he still does. And then you think, well, he's a psychologist. You think he would know how to control himself. But he says the
Mm-hmm.
more research he does, and he started to do a little bit of hypnosis. He says
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing that we carry some things from our past life, some things from our parents, because we are the product of our parents, that is in our subconscious, that he says maybe it didn't happen to me, but maybe it happened to my father or my mother, something very traumatic. And that's what's causing my anxiety today. Didn't happen to me. And I thought, wow. He says, we don't know it, but some people carry that. And until we work with it, we can't get rid of it. And I thought, oh, who, this is such a serious scientist, and he sees it from every aspect, but he sees it from a different life, I mean, reincarnation kind of stuff, that we carry it with us, even if we're in this, like you say, we're in this physical body, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
very
thought that was
interesting.
very, yeah, I thought that was very interesting. So sometimes when people are sick, now I think, well, maybe something's wrong with their brain. Maybe they're carrying something from the past, you know, that we cannot assume anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think we just assumed, that it was their own fault. But maybe sometimes it isn't. So now I feel like I know less than what I knew before. Oh, are you there, Taras? You're frozen. Oh, are you there?
hello.
Oh, there you are.
It was frozen for 10 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's just so many different things that we still don't know. I think you think with science, and you think we're getting smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter, but actually, I feel like we're getting more confused.
Yeah, and become in science. We become more and more specific and more specialist in some very narrow field. Uh, I remember my work at the Biochemistry Institute.
Mhm.
We used to study some immunology process in lymphatic cells during cancer, during
Mhm.
pregnancy period, and during the patients from Chernobyl nuclear power plant accident.
Uh-huh.
And we studied blood cells from different patients and studied how immunological process in the cells going on. And it was interesting that if you want to know something, you need to go deep in very narrow field. And on the each side, each stage, you understand more you know, you understand you don't know much more. And when
Mhm.
you go deeper, this understanding is growing, and much deeper you go to the problem, to the issue, to the study, you understand that you know nothing.
Oh, yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, same with feng shui. I think like sometimes the more I learn, the more I learn. Oh, I get confused.
That's why I love Dr. Sue teaching. He doesn't give strict rules or strict frames. He doesn't say do this way and don't do this way. He says there are general, very general principles, natural, universal principles, and your exact issue, your exact house is your creativity, is the case to express yourself in your house, in your building, in your apartment. Just feel the whole principle, nature, feel the nature, feel yourself, your inside nature, and do as you feel according to intuition. Because to my understanding, the high level feng shui is 100% intuition. When you don't explain how it works, you just feel that it's correct, you do, and
Mhm.
this is correct.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think we all have that gut feeling. We all have that feeling when a place feels good or when a place doesn't feel good. when we don't feel comfortable, even people's vibes, we can feel that. Absolutely, we can feel it. But I think we've become a little bit numb. We have
Right.
too much stimulation, too much stuff. So maybe it's a good time for us to stay home and reflect on our lives in general.
Yeah.
And kind of decide what we should be prioritizing, for our own fulfillment and for our own well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think we did pretty good.
Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting talk.
Yeah, that was good fun. So hopefully we can get Dr. Zhu one day. That's the goal. Then he can talk with us.
Yeah, it will be great. He's on Taiwan now, right?
Yes, he's in Taiwan and he's with his family, which is very nice.
Yeah.
And Taiwan is very good. It's under control. They have a very good health system.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rest of the world should copy them. Their health system is so good. He said they keep the price low because a lot of retired people, to help the government, they volunteer. So he says when he went to the clinic, there's people there who say, oh, what are you here for today? Oh, let's say, oh, I came here because I have eye appointment. Okay, you go to that place and you do this and you do this. And they say, oh, okay. And they have lots of people helping. He said they're all volunteers. All.
Great.
I said, what? He says, yeah, that's why their healthcare system is, they can control the price. So I said,
Very
oh,
good.
very good system. Very, very good. Yeah. So, okay. Well, thanks so much, Taras.
Thank you, Jenny.
I enjoy the conversations all the time. We'll see you next week.
Next week, hopefully. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. I have to say good night because it's bye. Have a good day. Yeah, and have a good week. Okay, bye.
Bye.